We start here with much of our surface area of our body touching the ground. And already this brings us into our intention for today, which is grounding into the earth. Anything that makes contact with the earth, we try to find a way to ground down into it. Now, grounding doesn't always have to mean complete release of your muscular effort. You'll see when we start getting to some of the seated postures, what that might mean is actually lifting the spine up away from the ground in order to find that deep rooting into the earth. And so as we're getting started here, let's take a picture into our minds of our whole body covered with tiny little roots, almost like little cilia. And imagine those roots are growing out of every part of our body that's facing down. And those little tiny roots all over the backside of our body are touching down into the ground. You can almost see it like slow motion photography, where it's almost like little wiggles as the roots get longer and longer. And there's that moment where suddenly they touch the ground and there's almost like a spark, a deep connection made, because the roots know what to do with the earth. And so they make that connection and they begin to dig. And it's very happy, it's joyful, almost like a mole that found its hole, that knows, oh yes, my body's made to be in the earth, to be digging up this dirt. And so the roots continue to travel down. And imagine with your inhales, you're sipping in the nutrients of this wonderful earth. With our wonderful inhales, those roots bring the nutrients up into the body. With the exhale, imagine that your body's processing those nutrients, creating more space so that on the following inhale, you're able to rise even more of that delicious nectar up into your body. And notice how good it feels to be grounded. No matter how we were feeling 5, 10, 15 minutes ago, right here, we feel supported, we feel nurtured. And so that's the quality we're carrying with us into this yoga practice today, that rooting quality. Taking a nice gentle movements all throughout class, we're trying to stretch the body without too much effort that has to pass through our system. Taking a nice gentle way to be with this process, be with this body. And so here we begin some of the physical movements. Just take the right knee into the chest. And with that right knee in, use your hands to help this right knee take some nice circles. These can be very huge circles. They could be, just left and right. It's whatever the range of motion is going on and whatever's helpful. You can tell if the circle's hitting spots that are not quite right. So no need to get to those spots. Just explore as if, kind of like the roots that were wiggling downward, as if that's now this knee. It's like it's trying to find something to latch onto. If you've ever seen a grapevine, it sends out its roots, and especially when the wind starts to blow, it sends out those little vines to try to catch something. And as soon as it catches something, it'll curl around. So that way it can grow taller from that spot. So imagine that's this knee right now, trying to wave around until it finds something to clasp onto. Make sure you get all sorts of directions for that circle. And then all of a sudden, with the right hand on the inside of the knee, simply let the knee travel wide out to the right. As you let go of the knee, notice how the foot's suddenly able to touch the ground. And so take a few rounds here, sliding the right foot onto the ground off to that side. So you're sliding further down, and then you're sliding back up. Just whatever range of motion you have with the foot still in contact with the ground. Start to notice different parts of the hip opening up to that direction. And then the next time this right knee slides up to that right side, the right hand grabs back on, bringing it up higher than it can go when the foot was on the ground. Start to slide the right hand down to the outside edge of that right foot, lifting the foot above the knee. This brings us into half happy baby pose. So start to play with this in seeing how far you can pull down on the foot without actually lifting up the left hip. And then we begin to try to swing this foot in and out. So it comes in toward the heart, and then it lifts back up above the knee. So take a few rounds of that, and notice that each of these different types of motion that we were taking includes slightly different muscle groups. So we're opening and allowing expansion to happen all throughout. Good. The next time the foot is above the knee again, stay right there. And let's begin to attempt to straighten the right leg up to the sky and then bend it back down to where it was. Now it's okay if you're not straightening all the way up since we're holding onto the foot. Some people have that easy range of motion that they can, and some people don't. And so wherever you're at, give yourself a chance to just let the hamstring stretch even a little bit, and then we're gently bending it back down. Let's take 2 more of those. And then we swing the foot back in toward the sternum, toward the heart. Both hands are holding on this time, and we're trying to pull the foot in as deep as it's willing to go. We're not wanting to sickle the foot, and so make sure that you're also supporting the ankle as you're pulling it all the way in. The hips opening up to a whole different degree. This one's similar to cobbler's pose, just with one side of it. And from here, you can decide if stillness feels amazing for the body, or if you prefer to add the swaying motions gently back to this spot. Going a little bit left and a little bit right. Amazing. From here, we release the foot. We're back onto this knee. Let's send this knee into a nice twist all the way over to the left side. No pressure to actually touch the knee into the ground. That's not exactly what we're going for. Rather, simply rest the left hand on the knee so that the weight of that arm invites it closer. As the knee's invited down, all the muscles and all the vertebrae of our spine are starting to open up to a whole different degree. It feels nice, especially in the morning time or right before bed. It feels nice to take some time, some care for that spine. But the least we can do for it, for carrying us and lifting us through the day. Looking at animals like cats and dogs, quadrupeds like that, their spine is supported in a totally different way. It doesn't have to hold up the upper half of the body. But our vertebrae is different. We're meant to be stacked. We're meant to lift tall. And remember, the amount of lift, I think, is proportionate to the amount of rootedness. A plant can't continue to grow tall if it's stuck in a very small container. Take one more wonderful inhale. And with the exhale, we feel this right hip returning back to the ground. The right foot goes onto the earth, and then the foot, staying in contact with the earth, slides all the way down, back to its starting position. Feel that right leg, even the right half of the body, so much more alive. It's as if we've provided space for the blood to flow into all the tiny crevices, all the little creases that needed it, and we didn't even realize it. So here, let's begin to head to the second side. We start off by sliding this right knee into the chest. Hands are on the knee, and we take some time to do all sorts of circles. Any movements that feel good. One or both knees helping, you can switch it up. Just moving around in ways that are helpful. If you're just doing strict circles, make sure you get both directions. Whatever we're doing, we're playing all around with this joint. As we visualize in our mind's eye what the hip socket looks like, we're helping to free out that hip socket. It's like by wedging it all the way around, we're trying to create more space in that area. There's a bunch of tendons, ligaments, muscles that connect right up to this hip area. And so if they get tight, it's almost like they're tightening that encasement. And so here we're trying to provide space to loosen that up. Take another couple of breaths. And then the left hand goes to the inner left knee. The knee gets weighed heavy to the left side. Notice what's going on. If you don't feel anything, readjust. Pull it closer, slide it wider. You've got some options. Releasing the hand for this moment. Notice how the foot immediately makes contact with the ground. And this is that point where we start to play with this side. With the foot on the ground, slide the left leg far away from your torso and slide it back up. A few rounds to just play with this socket. What's feeling loose? What's willing to open for us right here at this moment? Take it just one more time down. When it goes back up, grab back on with the left hand. Perhaps it feels a little bit more vital, a little bit more alive right at this moment. So then we reach up, grabbing the outside edge of that left foot, half happy baby. And at this moment, all we're doing is gently pulling down, the knees trying to get closer to the ground. No forcing of the right hip to be up though. In fact, it may be helpful to shoot some energy down this right leg so that even the knee doesn't try to lift. It's very active and very solidly into the ground. It's a strong root that we have right there. Here we take a few rounds, allowing the foot to come close to the hips and then swing back up above the knee. In and up. And the next time the foot rises back up, this is that play time, allowing the leg to go up and down. Maybe each and every time that you get there, you're trying to go just a millimeter deeper. That might not look like much, but you can feel it from within. It feels like the muscles are absolutely at their maximum at this moment, and then we relax it back out. One more great set up. And then when it comes back down, both hands grab onto the foot and also support the ankle to allow the whole foot to get close to that sternum, almost like a cobbler's pose. A whole set of muscle groups stretching out that were not previously. Enjoy another huge breath into the body. Wonderful, comfortable exhale. Release the hands from that foot. We're coming back up onto the knee, and then we twist the knee all the way over to the right. Left shoulder's in contact with the earth. Feel that left shoulder, the whole left arm, growing roots connecting back down to the earth. When you feel that connection, it's almost like a whole different physics is going on. Imagine magnetism, or even just a physical connection that would make it like a tug of war if we had to lift it away from the ground. We would have to fight it because our roots are so strong. Keep that upper half of the body very secure, and continue to ask the body, does it want to twist any deeper? Is it happy right where it's at? Just be playful about this process. Back to the breath we took at the beginning. With our inhale, feel the roots bringing up delicious nutrients. And with the exhale, feel it process through your body. So take 2 more cycles of breath with that visualization. And with our wonderful exhale, we return our left hip to the ground. The left foot is planted. Keep that foot in contact with the earth for as long as possible as you begin to slide it long. And notice all this energy, the extra space now available on the entire left leg. Simply luxuriate in these feelings for another huge inhale. With our exhale, we make our way up toward a seated position. Come up any way that's available right at this moment. And we rise to a simple seated position. Cross leg, start to feel the energy rising up the spine already. That spine that was supported through the twisting and through the laying postures we just took. The shoulders stack up nice and tall, right above the hips. Sometimes that means rather than leaning forward, we have to pull ourselves back just a little bit. So from this alignment of shoulders to hips, we plant the right hand off to the right side, and then the left hand starts to circle up to the sky, and we reach over. There's no need to drop the right elbow to the ground if that's lifting up our hips. Rather, we keep the legs as a solid base in the ground. Simply reaching up and over to any extent possible. Shoulders are still tall and stacked as if we're leaning right up to a wall behind us. Now, similar to what we were doing with our knee before, imagine this arm became that grapevine. And it's trying to swing around behind you. And it's trying to curl around in front of you. This doesn't necessarily have to have structure. This can be improvisational. Whatever feels good, loosening up that shoulder joint. Circling all around. Getting all the areas that are available for that arm. Enjoy 2 more breaths with these movements. And after the second breath, we rise back up. Take a moment to feel the posture tall and notice the difference in the body. Left side much more open. Then we begin to switch sides. Left hand is grounded. Feel that touching of all the roots from the palm growing down into the earth. Shoulders are stacked, leaning back against a wall, something flat behind you, at least in our mind. And then right hand begins to circle. Maybe the bottom elbow bends a little bit, or maybe it can touch to the ground without the hips lifting. So pause here, just simply elongating the side ribs for the first few breaths here. And then take some time starting to move around with this shoulder. The vine is trying to search for anything to grab onto. The grapevine likes to grow tall. It likes to wind its way up. But it in itself doesn't have any structure. Kind of like the spine is our structure to move up. And so this arm by itself cannot grow upright. So it's trying to seek for something to grab onto so that it can continue its journey upward toward the sun. Let's take 3 more breaths, moving all around that shoulder joint. And then we rise up, very tall, very stacked. Notice the difference through the shoulders. Similar to what we were just doing, we now allow our neck and our spine to be that vine, searching around for something, anything to grab onto. And so take it nice and slow so you don't get whiplash, but perhaps start off with that neck, moving all the way around. If there's a spot that doesn't feel good, don't feel like you have to explore there. Some people don't like lifting their chin up because it might crunch the bones on the back for them. So no need to do that motion if that's too much. And as the neck is continuing to explore in a similar fashion, can you allow the vertebrae to add on? Remember, this doesn't have to look like any shape. It can be just simple circles, or you can begin to kind of move it along wildly. What feels good? What's our intuition trying to guide us to move? Imagine we have spirit guides surrounding all around us, and as they push with a finger against us, we tilt to one side. And then as another one pushes another direction, we begin to melt to another direction. And so what direction are they trying to lead us to? Imagine their fingers pushing us as helping our body to be loose and free in a way that it never has before. So can you just listen to and let go of what we think, just trusting in their guidance. So another 2 breaths with the spine and neck. And then we feel our spine stacking upright, very tall once again. From here, we're ready for alternate nostril breathing. Our channels are wiggled, they're ready to be cleared, as if we're blowing air through a pipe to try to help push all the gunk out. And so we tuck down on the right hand, we tuck down the pointer finger and the middle finger. That right thumb plugs off the right nostril when we're breathing in on the left side. When we're working on the right side, it's the ring finger that plugs off the left. So we simply jump back and forth between right nostril and left nostril, being plugged off. Anytime we're about to exhale, that's when we switch sides. So we start off plugging off the right nostril, inhale left. And we're about to exhale, so switch sides, exhale right. Inhale the right side. We're about to exhale, so switch and exhale left. Inhale left, switch, so we can exhale right. Inhale right, switch, exhale left. Use your fingers on the left hand to count 5 complete cycles. We finish, we begin on this left side and we finish exhaling on the left side. So cycle 1, inhale left. When you finish that last cycle, drop your hand down. You may be slower or faster than me. Keeping your eyes closed, just tune into how the body feels, again, when you get here. With your eyes closed and your mind's eye, imagine some sort of a plant coming up away from your roots. Your roots are so solid in the ground that now it's time for something to grow and flourish. So maybe you're imagining a little flower bursting up out of the crown of your head. Maybe it's a whole different kind of plant, a tree, a bush, a shrub, a grass. There's many varieties of plants, more than we can think of and name in just a few minutes. And so just in your mind's eye, imagine what plant is wanting to burst forth through this tall, stacked spine that we have. With that beautiful image to continue carrying us on, we head into cobbler's pose. We start off with a nice tall spine. Let's imagine that if we're stacked and tilting the hips forward, that's a happy spine. The moment our hips pull us backward, that's a sad spine. So always lifting up tall, even sliding something under your hips to sit on if you need the help. And then we begin to tilt. So imagine what kind of a plant might begin to lean forward like this. There's all sorts of varieties, for instance, of flowers. Some flowers open up directly to the sun, and some like to have more of a kind of a curled over fun shape. So maybe we're taking on that kind of a flower right now. Roll the spine back up nice and tall and let your right leg open out to the right side, keeping this left foot tucked in comfortably. We start off by leaning all the way over to the side so we get to stretch that shoulder again. So we need to punt the right hand to the inside of the right leg. Some people can slip down to the elbow. Either way, we peel this left shoulder back to stack it nice and tall. And then this left arm is free to begin to reach up and over. You can be still with this stretching, just finding a good spot to be, or if you feel like you'd like to play around with that shoulder again, let this be your practice, choosing what feels best. Drop the left hand to the ground. Right hand slides to the outside of the right leg. And we begin to walk ourselves down as far as we can comfortably reach at this moment. Maybe forehead is melting closer to the knee. Checking in with the root, the most important root here being the hips. See if you can straighten the spine. That very low back is getting pulled long. Feel how that tugged on our roots, encouraging the roots to become even longer through the hamstrings. So at that moment, start to relax back down. And the last thing I encourage you to do here, if there's possibility, is to pull, whether it's physically with your hand or just energetically pull the ball of the foot closer to the face. You'll start to feel the calf stretching out from that simple activation. Find the hands pressing into the ground, building a structure for us to lengthen our spine up from. And then we switch out our legs. Left gets its chance to go nice and wide. Left hand is on the floor to the inside of the leg. Some people can work down to the elbow. Peel the right shoulder back, and then the right arm is able to stretch up and over. Does your body want freedom and movement on this arm? Or does it prefer the stillness and that length? The right hand returns to the ground. Left hand goes to the outside of left leg. Begin to melt your way over that leg. The whole spine simply rounding down. Some sort of a plant that wants to go very long. Take that chance to reintegrate our roots even deeper. So lift up just about halfway. Straighten that low back. It's like you can feel your back muscles suddenly tugging onto the hamstrings when you try to straighten it out. So keep it in that additional length as you start to relax back down. And then that last little puzzle piece, actively pull the ball of the foot closer to the forehead, lifting it and pulling it back. Enjoy that additional strength stretch all through that length of the calf, up the hamstrings, and down the back. Hands find their way into the ground. We press into it to rise up. When we're here, let's swing our knees underneath our body. From a kneeling position, we take a few cat-cows. And with today, just like all these other poses we've taken, you can be strictly in the normal version. But if there's other directions that wish to be wiggled, go through those areas as well. This can look more like rocking. It can look like circles. It can look like just simple undulations. Work it out in your body, what's going to be effective. Beautiful. From here, come all the way up to a nice high kneeling position, keeping your back toes tucked. We're going to head into camel's pose or just a prep, depending on what's available for your body today. Take your hands onto the back sides of the hips. Allow the hips to push forward. Already you can feel the stretch happening on the front of the quadriceps, the front of the hips. So begin to push them forward. Even if you stay here, that's not a bad place for your spine to arch. But see if you can lift the heart up. Chin stays into the chest or rocks back, depending on what's comfortable. No need to go further if you don't want to. Only if you know full camel poses in your practice. Drop one or both hands down to the heels and continue to lift. Taking 3 more breaths. Tuck the chin back into the chest if you dropped the head back. Walking hands up to hips. And then from here, we're able to rise up. Dropping the hands back down to the ground. We lift the right arm up to the sky. Do a few nice wrist rolls. And begin to thread that arm all the way under and through into the ground. The left hand can stay in front of the face. It can stretch up to the top of the mat, or it can circle around the low back. Several options so that you have a chance to play with what's helpful to you. Return the left hand in front of the face, press into it to rise. Take some free movement through the vertebrae. Good. Left hand reaches up to the sky. Do a few nice wrist rolls. And then thread it all the way under and through. What variation does this right hand want to do? Walking forward, maybe wrapping around the low back. Another breath in. And exhale, release the hand down. Press into the hand, coming up to a nice kneeling place. And then from here, walk both knees together to touch. The feet are swaying wide to the outside edges of the mat. Grab onto each of your calves and start to rotate the calves outward with your thumbs so that you can create some space to sit down in between your feet. If this is not happening anywhere close to this today, you're gonna come back up, find something to sit on, even if you're coming up to a bolster, to a block, to a stack of blankets, find something to sit on. Plant the hands behind you, and we start to walk our hands backwards until we feel a nice quad stretch, so both tops of the thighs. Sometimes this spot with the hands just back here is fine. A little tiny tuck of the tailbone under and up can be all that you need to do to deepen the experience. Occasionally there are people who want to go further, down onto elbows or beyond. Take another good breath. Walking back up to the hands, lift your hips up. Relax your body all the way forward into a nice arch shape, Sphinx pose with elbows under the shoulders. Allow hands to drag toward your body so that heart can get pulled forward and through. The neck is long, shoulders are away from ears. Swivel the right hand in. The left hand reaches back to grab the left toes. Pull them in for a nice quad stretch. You can always use a strap if this reaches a little bit too much. We're trying to pull it into a good degree that allows the quad to stretch, and maybe we can also eventually work to the way where the flexibility is also stretching the shoulder. See if you can lift the low belly, the belly button, just a little bit off the ground, slightly more engagement than we might naturally have. One more huge inhale for this side. And exhale, completely release. Switch it up. Right hand grabs right toes. Start to pull it in. As we release, send both legs back to the ground. The left arm extends onto the ground on that left side. The right hand plants under the right shoulder, and we start to press into that right hand, lifting our hips perhaps to stack. Let the head rest down. Maybe the top leg continues to rotate and plant behind your back, getting a nice shoulder stretch. Hips return back to the ground, switch the arms out. Right arm to the right, left hand planted. Push into that left hand to help stack the hips and maybe even rotate that top leg to plant behind. Hips relax back down to the ground. Both hands come under the shoulders. Press up and then sink your hips back into a nice child pose. Allowing the spine to relax long. See if it's possible to rest the head down, whether it's on the floor or on the elevation of a block. From here, rising back up to hands and knees. Tuck your toes, lift up into a downward facing dog. It may be nice to take some nice gentle wiggles through the legs, helping to stretch out things that are still tight for us. And then from here, left foot slides forward to step in between the hands. The back knee is welcome to drop down. And take a few breaths, sinking the hips forward. As the hips are going in that direction, rather than collapsing the spine down, see if you can find additional length up through the heart. That might require coming up to fingertips, coming up to blocks, or even joining hands on top of the knee so that we can really keep the heart lifting forward and through as the hips are melting forward. Dropping the right hand back to the ground. You have two options. Left hand either twists up to the sky to rotate through the spine, or use that same hand to try to grab the back toes. If you have the toes option, you're pulling in to feel the quad stretch and also rotating back to open up the heart. Good. Drop left hand back onto the mat. Front leg gets a chance to go very straight. Allow your heart to melt down to the thigh. We take this knee back. We lift back up to downward facing dog. Pedal out the legs. Right foot slides forward. Drop the back knee down. As hips are melting forward, are we up on fingertips so that the heart can go through? Are we up on blocks? Or is it most beneficial to come up to thigh? Deep stretch through the front of the left hip and the heart opening. There's a magnet in front of you trying to pull the heart space forward and through. Left hand drops down. Right hand is either twisting up to the sky or grabbing the back toes. Remember, you can continue to spiral the spine open into an arch behind you if this is available. One more inhale. Exhale, release. The front leg gets to go straight. And we melt the heart down. Good work. Take this leg back. Come to sit. Swing both legs out in front of you. Make the spine happy again. So this is not rounding back at the hips. We're lifting up tall. And from that height, Then we can begin to lengthen our spine forward. That's our way to connect to the earth, grounding down into that beautiful earth. Rising the spine up, plant the right foot to the outside of left leg. The left hand grabs the knee or the left elbow, and we spiral the spine into a twist. Facing forward, the left toes tuck in to the right side. We're trying to get both knees to stack. If that's not possible to have both sitting bones grounded that way, slide the legs wider, even all the way to cross-legged shape. From here, start to walk your hands forward. Returning back up, both legs go long, lift the spine back up tall, tilt forward at the hips, and then find the release down. Rolling back up, left foot plants to the outside of right leg, right hand or elbow grabs the knee. We spiral open to look behind us. Return forward. Slide the right toes in close to the hip. The knees are trying to stack. And begin to release over. As we rise up this last time, both legs extend forward, and we find ourselves returning down onto our back, immediately connecting with the pose of Shavasana, whatever that looks like for you today, whether we're flat on our ground or maybe legs in cobbler shape. We find ourselves connecting immediately all that surface area of our backside down into the ground. Feel all that surface area opening, touching down. Notice what the color of your roots are as you're envisioning them at this moment. What is the color of healthy roots? And maybe in one instant, all of a sudden, you tap into some super nutrient source within the soil. And so the color of the roots shifts. So what color is the color of super roots to you at this moment? Maybe a gold hue, maybe white, maybe a different shade of green. Just notice. And with us having tapped into that super source, we simply breathe in and out for the rest of our Shavasana today. Inhale invites the nutrients up the roots. And exhale, we process those nutrients, receiving them. Begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales. Introducing movements and wiggles back to the body, like our grapevines have woken back up. Start to stretch up overhead like you're waking up first thing in the morning. Find yourself curling into a nice fetal position to one side, enjoying a couple of breaths. And as we rise up into a comfortable seated place, immediately feel your spine stacking tall, joining hands together in front of your heart. Take another sip of inhale to visualize the last little bit of that super nutrient traveling up into the body, feeding us, energizing us, powering us for this next day of our life. We feel connected, we feel grounded, and every step we take today is yet another chance to root into this wonderful earth that wants to feed us. So with this energy that we've received from earth to help us transition onward into this marvelous day, let's wrap up the time we got to share together with the sound of Om. Inhaling now. Om. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.